Lots of people talk about it on forums and in different channels, and the guys in the gun shop talk about it because the 2245 has a similar grip to the SR 1911, and you can see in the side by side they have sort of the same cant to the grip. There are some things that will obviously be different. We'll talk about when we shoot the 22 itself.
I've got the Ruger 2245 Mark III here, along with the Ruger SR 1911 in 45. Now, in the past, I've talked about 22 training guns. Guns that are, training guns for full-size calibers, but shoot 22 long rifle instead of the full-size caliber. That's basically the idea behind the Ruger 2245. It's set up to be a training gun for the standard 45. Today, we're going to put that theory to the test. Steve here, who's the owner of those two guns, is going to do all the shooting, a lot of the talking. I'm going to get out of the way and enjoy his commentary. All right, Steve's going to start us off now, shooting at some steel with that Ruger SR 1911. Just have a little fun with it. Tell us what you like about the gun when you're done.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and give me a white, black, white.
White, black, white.
Three, two, B. Clear for now. Go ahead and reload. Tactical reload, we call it. 1-3. 3-2. Second black.
I don't know what I hit there.
This time go for the second black. There you go. First black. Only white. And we're empty. Now, you've owned this gun for how long?
I think it's been about 3 months, maybe 4 months.
Okay. First 1911.
First 1911. I think it's basically a very good entry-level 1911. The market price is down there in the, depending on the sale, high 500s to low 700s, depending on where you are in availability. And so in terms of price, it's pretty competitive with other entry-levels offerings from Remington and a few others. They advertise it as having all of the things you need in a 1911 without the things you don't need. So it's not customized in any way, but it's got the sort of weight, feel, body mechanics of any 1911. And so I've been very, very happy with it. I was able to try it out on a local range day to get a feel for it. Shot it side by side with a Kimber 3 times the price. And being that I am a novice enthusiast, I wasn't going to tell the difference between those two very different quality guns, and so I went with the entry-level one. I've been happy with the choice. So been able to put hundreds of rounds through it, shoots comfortably, no malfunctions.
All right. And you recently purchased the 2245 with the idea that that would be a training pistol for the 1911.
Right. Lots of people talk about it on forums and in different channels, and the guys in the gun shop talk about it because the 2245 has a similar grip to the SR 1911, and you can see in the side by side they have sort of the same cant to the grip. There are some things that will obviously be different. We'll talk about when we shoot the 22 itself. Right. But when you have a 22 magazine, just think of the diameter of a 22 round, the diameter of a 45 round, and if you put two single stacks side by side, there's your difference in the grip width.
Okay. So let's go ahead and compare them side by side just visually and for some of those controls, and then we'll take some shots with that 2245.
Okay, when you look at a simple side-by-side of a 2245 and an SR 1911, you can right away see similarities. You've got similar angles and grips in both guns. You have similar serrations on the back of the 2245. Of course, because it's a 2245, it's got this funny knob that you've got to use for disassembly and cleaning. which isn't part of the 1911, but otherwise they try to give you a similar feel to the grips of the two guns. If you look at them from the bottom, and maybe up next to each other closely, you can see it a bit more. The SR 1911 is still going to be a little bit thicker than the 2245. Front to back, they're similar dimensions, and so if you're using a good grip that is pushing from behind and pulling with your support hand, the width of the difference in the width shouldn't matter as much to you. But we're not all perfect, and so you might notice a difference in the way it feels in your hand. The weight of the two guns is relatively similar. I haven't put them on a scale to give exact dimensions to it, and when they're loaded, obviously, once you put 7 or with an extended mag 8 rounds of ACP, 45 ACP in this, it's going to be heavier than 10 rounds of 22 long rifle in this. But length of barrel, they're both 5-inch barrels. In terms of triggers is another major difference. When you're thinking about a training gun, difference in caliber is probably less important than the difference in grip and trigger feel, in my opinion. This trigger you'll see is one of those nice 1911 skeletonized, straight pullback kinds of triggers, whereas the 2245 has a trigger that's very different from a 1911. It pulls back a little bit at an angle when you're going to press, and the reset is very different in this trigger than it is on the 1911. So some of your shooting fundamentals aren't going to feel exact when you're doing them side by side. The other major difference in my view about treating one as a training gun for the other is the sight picture for each. The sights are very different on the two guns. They're both standard in their own way, but there is nothing about looking down the sight picture of the 2245 that's going to make you think you've got your 1911 in your hand. So I think those are the biggest contrasts. The similarities are basically the grip feel for the most part, the general weight of the gun, both made by Ruger, so it should be as close as possible to the test of principle of 2245 versus standard 45.
Now, they've also made an effort to put some of the controls in the same place. How do you feel that those compare?
That's a fair point. You've got your magazine release basically in the same thumb positions, your safeties in the same positions, but when you look at the kind of safety switch on the 2245, it's very different. It's not your 1911 kind of paddle. And so that is a fair point that at least the magazine release button is similar and the placement of the safety is similar.
All right, let's do a little shooting with that 2245 and then have some closing thoughts. All right, we're going to take some shots with that 2245 now. When you're ready, go ahead and give me a black.
Okay, black.
White. 3, 2. 1, 3. Tactical reload.
These magazines are a little bit sticky sometimes. The mag release, because of safety features built into this, sometimes make it so it's not so easy to get your reload done.
Something about that angle of the magazines don't go in quite the same angle as the 1911 as well.
So it's not so tactical of a tactical reload. It's sort of like a workbench reload.
Okay, white. Left, right. Center, left. Black. First black. White. Black. And clear.
Okay. So we have.
So one thing we could point out there that we kind of two things we discovered there. One, the magazines do not drop free in this version of the 2245. In previous versions that I've reviewed, the Mark II, for instance, it does have drop-free magazines. This Mark III here does not have drop-free magazines. I'm told that you can modify it to make those drop-free. Good luck with that if you want to try it.
Yeah.
Also, the angle that those magazines go in at is different from the 1911.
Correct.
you had to bring it in at sort of, probably from doing a little bit of the reloading with the 1911 just now, you probably, muscle memory was kicking in, you were trying to push it at the same angle.
Yeah, I mean, the 1911 grip is supposedly at the same angle, but you feel like when you're reloading the 1911, you're pushing it basically straight up and in.
Mm-hmm.
With this, you definitely feel like you're having to get it back more at the angle for it to slide in and clear.
And it does.
Whereas the 1911 feels more like you're going in like this.
Right, and I think that the channel for that magazine does
angled
kind of
inside the grip.
Yeah, is kind of angled inside that grip.
Probably to allow for more rounds. Whereas this, if you're stacking the other one up that way, you'd have to have one or two fewer bullets.
Right, right. So there are a couple training issues there in regards to how this gun works compared to how the standard 1911 goes. As far as the other controls, the safety, I guess the slide release, which is not really a slide in this case, but the bolt release, they are in relatively the same position, but you talked about earlier, they're not shaped the same.
Right, they don't feel the same.
They don't really feel the same.
Right.
Okay, so if this is not a perfect 1911 training gun, what is it good for?
It's still a great gun, and it's still great to go out and shoot, plink, practice with. It's not going to have the same feel as a 45. It's not going to be identical to a 1911, but it's got a good solid weight. It's got a nice long barrel. You can build your confidence. You can get used to the sight picture with this gun. It'll be a little bit different with the 1911, but the habits you're forming in terms of your stance, your grip, and your aim pretty well ought to carry over into your other shooting experience. It's still a very high value 22 to go out and practice with.
All right, that's been just a brief little comparison between the 1911 and the 2245, designed to be a training gun, an excellent gun one way or another. I'm the late Boy Scout. This is my friend Steve. Thanks y'all for watching. We'll see you on the next one.